YouTube, Jake Asman here, ready to talk some Jets with Will Parkinson from TurnOnTheJets.com and also the Turn on the Jets podcast. If you're new to the channel, we talk a lot of Jets. My name is Jake Asman. As I mentioned, I host a daily radio show based out of Houston on Sports Map Radio, which is heard nationally. Will is the host of one of the best Jets podcasts on the internet, TurnOnTheJets.com. He's joined me on my page before, and we talk plenty of Jets, as you can imagine, throughout the course of the offseason. And then as we get closer and closer to training camp and the season, we'll do plenty of these to keep you up to date on what's happening with the team. I mentioned it. If you're new to the page, please subscribe on YouTube so I can continue to post more Jets content throughout the coming months. But Will, a lot to talk about, my friend. Obviously, we're kind of in that period where you get some OTA buzz, you get some OTA highlights, still a couple weeks away from training camp. But I will admit, you know, even though these guys are going up against air, even though a lot of times there's no pads on, there's no tackling, it is nice to see Robert Saleh out there, and it is nice to see Zach Wilson out there and a bunch of the new players on this team. What have been your thoughts so far on what we've heard, what we've seen from Jets OTAs?
It's been nice. I would say it's exciting to watch Saleh walk around in the Jets hoodie, got the clipboard going, and the play sheet and the practice script and all that stuff, and going over, hugging and kissing babies, aka the Jets, beat reporters and everything like that. It's been good to see Wilson continue to kind of develop here. Every single rep's going to be huge for him. Mosley back on the field. A lot of Jets rocking some pretty extensive visor game and things like that, which is pretty fun to see. A lot of the injured guys that came back last year that struggled, getting healthy, getting them on the field. There's been some guys that are already banged up, but in general, the fact that they've had a huge turnout, it seems like the young guys are getting a ton of reps. They're going to be able to install a lot. And just seeing, there's just a vibe around the building to me that just signals, look, are they going to be, I have no idea how they're going to be this year. Maybe it's 5 wins, maybe it's 9 wins, who knows? But the energy is great. And that's something that we have not been able to say for a long time. And even some of the comments that came out of, Michael Floyd the other day about, shaping the offense around the players they have on the roster, not just shaping around his system.
The anti-Adam Gase.
The anti-Adam Gase, and that's something that we, I've talked about a bunch. Is part of the reason I love Saleh so much is that he's willing to accept what he's not great at. And it seems like LaFleur is going to do the same. And they're both going to be vulnerable and say, hey, I need help here. Or my system might be good in this instance. And the outside zone, it's going to be perfect for AVT and Becton. But, we have a lot of guys that can get downhill quicker. So we're going to do something that, there's just a bunch of different stuff and quotes and energy. And again, Mosley to me was the most exciting person to see on the field practicing, saying he doesn't feel like he lost a step at all. The coaches are pumped to have him back. He looks good, and he's a huge key to this team. He's very much in my top 5 of if these guys play well, the Jets could have a much better season than expected.
Totally agree. CJ Mosley is one of those guys where, flies under the radar because we barely seen him play. I mean, he played 3 healthy quarters as a Jet so far, albeit those 3 quarters against Buffalo.
Those were elite 3 quarters.
I mean, I've never seen a Jet defender dominate a game like that since, Darrelle Revis in his prime, right? So hopefully CJ Mosley can come back and be healthy, and that'd be a huge boost for this Jets team. As far as, some news and notes with the Jets, and then we'll talk more about the roster. It's been a busy week for Robert Saleh. He was at the Knicks game, the only game they won at home in their series against the Atlanta Hawks at game 2. He was at the Islander game Thursday night. Unfortunately, the Islanders could not get the win. We'll see what they do on Saturday night against the Bruins, trying to even up the series. Zach Wilson was at the Knicks game 5. So, the coach and quarterback have been making the rounds around New York City during playoff time.
You can't forget the GOAT Dan Feeney. Dan Feeney is the star of the show.
We'll get to Feeney, who was at the Coliseum when the Islanders beat the Penguins in the first round at one of the games there. So, the Jets have been supporting the teams in the playoffs here in New York City. And, man, it's like an early taste of what could be, Jets. If you guys are ever good, the Jet fan base will have your back. It will be loud at MetLife. And, it's exciting to kind of see the fans react to the quarterback, react to the head coach in a positive light, because for the last 2 years under Adam Gase, I mean, the second the hire was made, it was overwhelmingly and rightfully so negative. So just the vibe, as you talked about, Will, is so different with this team.
Yeah, no, and even, I was a little disappointed. I'm probably the only diehard Nets fan that lives in New York State, but I was happy Wilson was rooting on the Nets. He posted a couple of Nets things on his story earlier, right after he got drafted, and I thought we were going to be able to snag him, but I guess the Knicks playoff buzz got to him. No, it was cool to see Saleh, and I just think there's a reaction to him, and it's not just from NFL people, and it's not just from Jets fans. It's the people announcing an Islanders Bruins, Eastern Conference final or whatever, Eastern Conference semifinal game, or there's Robert Saleh getting pumped up about it. Like, that's something to be said. That you didn't imagine picturing Adam Gase at a Knicks game or an Islanders game. Like, let's go. Like, no chance.
He'd be getting booed. I mean,
he'd be doing a Rubik's Cube, not talking to his kids or some like weird thing he was doing during the draft 2 years ago. But no, I'm excited about a lot of that stuff. And look, I know you don't want to get overly excited about Wilson yet because, again, he has to prove it. And as much as I was excited about LaFleur's comments, he's got to actually show that he's going to adjust the offense and stuff like that, right? All these things are wait and see, but there's not – everything is competent, it seems like. It seems like what a normal, good, well-run organization would do. And it's exciting to see the city and New York sports in general. The teams are either all good at the moment or they're young talent that has the ability to have them be good in the coming future, right? The Knicks are obviously had a great year. Unfortunately, Julius Randle looks like trash during the playoffs. But regardless, it happens, and the Hawks are a more well-rounded team. Obviously, as a Nets fan, the Nets look great. The Islanders are obviously super successful. The Rangers are going to come up and eventually be good here. And Jets, Giants, Yankees, obviously, and Mets are both either in first place or competing. It's just like it's an exciting time to be. This, to me, feels like early 2000s-ish, and then like the late, early 2010s, where all these teams were either good or at least competitive enough where you were excited about the fan base. The fan base could get excited. The city's buzzing a little bit. Obviously, it's just a lot going on, and I'm excited about what we got kind of cooking in New York here.
My brother is watching the live stream, and he writes in, Julius Randle looked like 2015 Week 16 Revis. I believe you mean Week 17 Darrelle Revis in Buffalo, where
all of 2015.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the second half of 2015 with Revis, it fell apart, and you knew, it was over, and then 2016 happened, and I don't need to revisit that. I choose to remember Darrelle Revis from, his first stint with the New York Jets, obviously. All right, a lot to get to, though, with the quarterback, and then we could talk about some of the comments made about Mekhi Becton and, Jameson Crowder's contract situation. But, Wilson's going to be the focus, rightfully so. As we sit here and talk, the Jets still have not signed that veteran quarterback. And the more we kind of keep going here, the more I think it's likely they just kind of run it with what they have. They seem to really like Mike White. They seem to like James Morgan. I mean, they did use a 4th-round pick on the guy a year ago. I don't know if I love not having a veteran, but you know what? I will defer to Joe Douglas on that. And ultimately, Wilson, we know, is going to be the guy. He's going to get as many reps as possible, which is how it should be. And all signs point to Zach Wilson being the guy from day one of the preseason to game one of the regular season.
So there's no chance he doesn't start at all. There's like zero. My theory is that they will sign or pick somebody up waiver-wise midway through at the beginning of camp, probably in 4 to 5 weeks. They'll do the same at corner. They'll probably add another body at linebacker, potentially another body, a tight end. Because to me, if you look at a lot of Saleh's comments, it's all about getting these young guys reps. And he knows, look, Wilson, the Bryce Halls of the world, even a Bless Austin, even if you don't love them, or some of these young guys that are at corner and quarterback, they need the reps. And it's a new system on both sides of the ball, new head coach, new coaching staff, new training staff. And most of them are either like 21 and 22, 23 years old, a lot of rookies. I think having the 3 guys, if I had to guess, Mike White probably doesn't make the roster, or he's a practice squad guy, and they sign either Nick Mullins or, they pick up, I don't know, use it. We can use 400 different examples. Chase Daniels gets cut, and then the Jets are like, let's pick somebody up just to be able to be that stable backup veteran leader. But I'm glad right now they're letting Wilson kind of learn trial by fire. Yes, is it not in pads, and it's a lot of scripted stuff and all those things, but he needs to make as many throws. I know DJ, from the beat, who had come on the pod, and he was talking about yesterday, hey, up and down day for Wilson. And I was like, that's good. I want that, because right now he can't just be like, it can't be all sunshine and rainbows. If he needs to make some mistakes, learn, but he needs to be able to get those reps in order to keep learning. Right.
Well, do you remember over the summer when the Chargers were the team on Hard Knocks and it looked like, clearly Tyrod Taylor was the better player than Justin Herbert? Like, that's how it should be. Like, Herbert should struggle in moments during practice, in preseason games. Like, that's kind of what you want to see. Herbert struggled and then ended up being the best out of any of these rookies this past year. Like, you don't want it to be perfect every step of the way. You want Wilson to have up and downs and learn from it so they could coach him up. I mean, the previous regime was a major detriment to Sam Darnold, obviously. Like, you want this regime to be able to coach up Zach Wilson. And the only way you do that, as you brilliantly said, is give him the most reps imaginable. And the Jets have done that so far.
Yeah, no, 100%. Even like as great as Josh McCown was, and look, I would love Josh McCown to be the Jets quarterback coach and all these different things. It's tough because Josh McCown was pretty good, or at least very serviceable the year before the kind of the wheels fell off. But in the beginning of the year and the year before, Josh McCown was an effective NFL starting quarterback. And like sometimes I think as a rookie, when you come in, you've got that veteran presence. Josh McCown was doing it for the right reasons. There's other vets that, like, look, I don't want to bash Flacco and the whole thing. Flacco still thinks he can play, right? And he wasn't like the best mentor for Lamar. That's why part of why he needed to get out of there. He wasn't the best mentor. I don't think he was a great mentor for Sam either. And this isn't like an excuse making for Sam at all, because that's in the past. But right now, it's good. Zach Wilson should have young guys he's around that he can compete with and go, I need to be better than this guy today. And then if there's a veteran that comes in during camp, it's more about here's how you go through your first training camp. Here's how you stay healthy. Here's how you were able to go through the necessary steps. But at least Wilson's confidence at that point, he'll have been like, it's my team, it's my roster. I'm going to take this thing forward. Now there's a vet just coming in to help me. Not like I'm competing week one. We're going to do this stupid thing where they're going to play 3 games and then we're going to be 0-3. And now he's going to come into a bad situation with the rookie, right? Like, I don't know. I don't think Fitz was great for Tua last year. He outplayed him for a majority of the year. And now everything around Tua is question mark. Why was Fitz better than you? Why did they Mariano Rivera you against Oakland and against Vegas in like week 16 or whatever? We need to go to the playoffs. Like that type of stuff can be good, yes, but it can also be detrimental. And right now, like I said, you said the same thing. Give Wilson every rep possible. Honestly, give James Morgan a bunch of reps. So I hope he wins that backup job because we took a 4th-round pick on him. Right. That's what happens. Because if not, he's off the roster, and now it's another wasted pick. And I'm just plugging my brother for a second. He's writing an article that's coming out next week about the worst 2nd-round drafting team in the last decade. And guess who number 1 is? So let's stop having that happen, and like hopefully let's make him let's develop James Morgan into a backup. That's the ideal world. It's Wilson and Morgan for the next 10 years. And we're kind of chilling, and they're both hit on both those draft picks. That's optimistic, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. The guy that I look at and think that could be the guy they end up bringing in is Nick Mullins, because he knows the offense. I mean, if you're going to bring in a veteran backup, bring in someone that could actually show Wilson, what the play is, how to prepare for the offense that you're going to be running, because he's been in that system for a number of years. It hasn't happened yet, but he's still out there, and I think he's still out there for a reason. So my prediction on who ends up being the guy they bring in, I think it's going to be Mullins when it's all said and done.
Have you seen Mullen? There's a weird stat on him that sorry to cut you off. There's a weird stat that I think he's like, it was like top 10 in the NFL in yards per attempt last year, if I'm not mistaken. Like, think about that. Like, we complained so much about how horizontal Gase is passing, like, on the same offense with the banged up 49ers team. I think he was like 7.8 or 7.9 yards per attempt last year. Cool. You can be our backup because at least you have a chance. That the Jets I think they went 0-10 in Sam's missed starts. No, am I wrong? They didn't win one.
No, you're right. They didn't win a single game when Sam.
Right. And then so now you just threw away 10 of Sam's 48 starts because he was injured, and then now it's 10 losses. Like that can't be the thing. Most good organizations you can rely on at least have a chance with the backup. The Jets have had no chance. Clip before is over.
Yeah, you won't be embarrassed. You maybe could remain in the game and be competitive. No doubt about that. As far as the Wilson number 2 jersey, Will, we talked a lot about this, but we didn't know what jersey number Wilson was going to be wearing. I have purchased my Zach Wilson number 2 jersey. For those who have been DMing me, thanking me for giving the website overseas on where to purchase your Zach Wilson jersey for under $30, you're welcome. If you're new to the show, DM me on Twitter at Jake Asman, and I can tell you where to find your Zach Wilson jersey. Decent quality for under $30. I'll leave it at that. But as far as the number 2, Will, Your thoughts on it? I think he looks really fresh in the jersey number 2.
I think it looks really cool. I think it's his own thing, and I think he can use it in a different number of things where he could be like, oh, I was the number 2 pick in the draft, or I was passed up at 1, so I don't want to wear 1 because it's a chip on my shoulder. Look, I mean, if you go second overall, it's hard to have a chip on your shoulder, but that's been his mantra his whole career. He talks about it all the time about how he's had this chip, and he's wanted to work harder than everybody and all this stuff. And I think that stuff is real. Like, people do feed off that, and there's always the guys that can name everyone that got drafted in front of them and all these different things. I think the Jeter thing, and I know your brother pointed this out, but like, I think the Jeter thing, whether he's a diehard Jeter fan or not, you're in New York and you're wearing 2, and it's that is more pressure. I know baseball and football are different, and there's there's a million different things, but I hope if he is a Jeter fan, he talks about that stuff, because I think it's more, you can endear yourself more and more to the fan base. I know a lot of Jets fans are Mets fans and the whole thing, but look, he's still probably the face of New York sports, and he's been retired for half a decade, right? So I like number 2. I think 1 would have looked cool. 2 looks cool as well, but either way, I would say, like, he picked a good number. He didn't pick 14, but now he's all time. Who's he have to be better than Matt Ryan to be the best number 2 ever?
Yeah, I mean,
less pressure than wearing 12.
It's certainly, and thankfully, 12's not an option with the New York Jets, of course. Will, as far as some of the news and notes coming out of OTAs today, let's talk about the story. There's a couple. One being Jets left tackle Mekhi Becton. He's, quote, dealing with a foot injury, Robert Saleh said. Now, he doesn't need surgery, but Saleh basically said, well, he's a really large human being, and we want him to stay off his feet. Now, he's been at the facility. He's not, been practicing in any of these OTAs. It doesn't sound like there's a major concern with Mekhi Becton, but obviously Jets being cautious with him because they need him to be protecting the blind side of Zach Wilson. And we want to see what this line will look like year 2 of Mekhi and obviously year 1 of Elijah Vera Tucker. So they're being careful with Mekhi Becton.
Mekhi Becton and Zion, to me, have the same. My one concern for both of them is that they're such large human beings, like not humanly large. Like, they're just gigantic, and it's not like neither of them are fat. Okay, like Zion, like, sometimes walks like he's like 45 years old. Or Becton, like, he's literally 385 pounds. Do I think that Saleh is saying that Becton's overweight? No. Do I think that he has to be really, really adamant and really careful every single offseason and during the season as well to keep that number probably around 365, 370? Yeah, Judge is the same thing, right? They're all just gigantic people, and it's just tough with Becton. Plantar fasciitis, I've had it. I had it when I was coming back from my leg. It's super painful, but you can play through it if you need to. My fear is more so they got to get his calves loosened up, and we don't have to do a whole physical therapy thing, but I don't want him to tear his Achilles because he's got his foot is bothering him, and then all of a sudden it goes up to his calf, and it's like the Kevin Durant situation where you have a pulled calf, and now all of a sudden your Achilles gets messed up. He should be fine. Look, they're gonna have to be on him all the time, and I think he works really hard, and that's all awesome stuff. But he's 6'8", like he's a gigantic person, and it's just gonna be day after day being super disciplined. They maybe have to change some of the way he's eating and some of those things like that, just to kind of help him do the best they can. But I'm sure they're doing that. I'm sure Saleh's in his ear constantly, like, we need you. Because Becton, the one criticism you could have from last year is, he got banged up a lot, and the NFL's tough. The regular season's an extra game this year. There's a full training camp now where you're gonna be in person, probably gonna hit a lot more. Like, there's a lot of different things. So I just would like to see them really basically put him on ice until the middle of July, but make sure you just got to watch it every single day. He's got to have a weight in mind. He's got to try to stick to that and keep working on flexibility, keep working on all these different things to get his body in shape, because the talent is immense. And if the Jets have Becton and AVT on the left side of the line, they should look pretty awesome running outside zone and kind of running people over. But Becton's a huge key. He's the face of the franchise at the moment, minus Zach Wilson. So you need to have him out there. And I'm not concerned, but I'm also not pleased with that news. Like, the Corey Davis and Mims stuff it's whatever. It's a non-COVID illness, and it's a shoulder that he could play on week 1. The Becton stuff is just I would say like my panic meter is like a 3.5, but normal OTAs would be a 0. So that should just show you Becton needs to be on the field in order to be as productive as the Jets want to be this year.
Yeah, the only thing that would stop Mekhi Becton from being, an all-pro left tackle is injuries. Simple as that. Robert Saleh also confirmed that the Jets brought in ex-Washington football team right tackle Morgan Moses for a free agent visit. Said, quote, Morgan is a fantastic player. He's played at a very high level. Not going to shy away from adding good football players. This is why you still have all this cap space. You want to use that guy. If you could bring him in, I'm sure it wouldn't cost a fortune, but the Jets still have the most cap space left in the NFL. You bring him in and add more competition at right tackle with George Font. I think it's a no-brainer. Plus, we're talking about Mekhi Becton, obviously. Well, you add real depth if you bring in a guy like that to help your offensive line. So I hope the Jets get it done. I think that'd be really helpful for this young quarterback to have more depth up front and obviously, just to feel better about the line overall. So I hope they bring him in. He's a good player.
Yeah, no, me too. He graded out pretty well last year. I think he's probably better than the George Fant is. Like if you compared them both right tackle wise, like he probably wins that job. I think ideally the Jets play their best 5 at offensive line this year, and kind of the Raiders did that a couple years ago, and they obviously blew it up this offseason, but it's worked for them really well. Of just like, hey, we have 3 guys who are tackles and 2 guys who are guards, but we're going to put the best 5 out there and build a wall for Derek Carr. I hope the Jets do the same for Zach Wilson. Moses would be a good signing. It's probably going to be a 1 for 5, 1 for 5.5, maybe with incentives if he plays, 17 games or he makes the Jets do X number of, things on offense. I just like, and then even the Becton thing should emphasize it even more. You have no idea if he can play 17 games yet. You don't, right? He's had 1 NFL season. George Fant's got banged up last year. McGovern was banged up last year. People get banged up. Offensive line's a physical position, and the more guys you have, right? It's that's better for the Jets. And I don't know if it'll happen, but if it does, I'd be pleasantly surprised with, with bringing Moses in. There's no issue with that. I'd be happy with Douglas continuing to take shots in the offensive line. If he hits, and that's great. And if not, he's gone in a year anyways.
How you got to look at it, no doubt about it. And then really the other story here, and it's worth following because obviously, the Jets are going to try and bring in as many weapons as possible to help Zach Wilson, is the situation with Jameson Crowder. Obviously, Crowder has 1 year left on his contract that will pay him about $10 million or so. And he's not with the team right now because Robert Saleh called it contract stuff. Now they expect him to be on the roster, but obviously I'm sure you look at this whole story from Crowder's perspective. He probably wants more guarantees in his contract. Would you like to see the Jets maybe extend Jameson Crowder? You lower his cap number by doing so, and he's still a good player. And I think you could still get him at an affordable rate. I don't think because you have Elijah Moore, you can't also have Jameson Crowder. I think a good coach could find ways to utilize both those playmakers in the offense. I know it's a novel concept where, last year, Gase refused to put Crowder and Berrios on the field together. But I think...
Dude, I flipped out on my pod about it. I was like... What are we doing here? Oh, they're both slot guys. Can't use them.
Oh, you can't do it. God forbid you actually give Sam Darnold a chance. I know, a novel concept. So I'd like to see the Jets have both guys on the team. Sounds like they will. They're just trying to work it out with Crowder right now.
I had like 4. I think I said this on the last time I was on your show, but I had 4 options with Crowder going into this. Is even pre-Elijah Moore, drafting Elijah Moore, which is great. I would say, I would have been to trade him during the draft. If that was the case, would have picked up an additional pick, and maybe you could have flipped it for something. That obviously did not happen. Now, unless he's getting traded for Julio, which is obviously not going to happen, as much as I'd love it, he should be on the roster week 1. I do not want to see him play this year on a 1-year, $11 million deal that he is non-guaranteed, and then he walks into the year, the Jets get no value. They're still like they're going to lose him next year anyways because they're not going to re-sign him if he doesn't get an extension. I'd like to see them either restructure for this year and just make it a guaranteed like 7. It'll be a 1 for 7 instead of an unguaranteed 1 for 11. Or ideally, they make it a 2-year deal. There's the cap hits probably 2 for 13.5, 2 for 14, as opposed to 1 for 10.5, and it's fully guaranteed. He's on the roster this year and next year. Gives them another weapon. Crowder's had trouble sometimes staying healthy with muscle pulls. We have no idea if Elijah Moore's going to stay healthy, right? You've never seen him play in the NFL. Mims has had injuries now in OTAs and all of last year. Corey Davis got banged up last year, and he got injured during the playoff game. So the more guys they have, the better. It's crazy. If you look at the receiving core right now, you're like, it's pretty impressive, right? Mims, Davis, Cole, Berrios, Crowder, Elijah Moore. But now you looked at it and like Crowder's not there right now, and then Davis and Mims aren't practicing, and you're like, it's last year's roster with Elijah Moore. So I'd like to see them extend them. I think they'll probably much, like I said, I think they'll end up being like, my prediction's going to be like 2 for 14. It'll be fully guaranteed. It'll be spread out over the 2 years and go from there. Like I said, I think it's smart. He's a productive player. I think people don't like him as much now because of Gase, and it's like he gives you the Gase era vibes and all that type of stuff. But it'd be good for Elijah Moore. He's a pro. The guys that I know on the Jets said that when Crowder speaks, everybody in that locker room listens. And he's a good player. So I'd like to see them keep him, but I'm not doing anything other than either extending him or lowering that cap hit, because $11 million, even as much cap space they have, $11 million for a guy that you have no idea if he's even going to start week 17 is a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, and I'm sure they're trying to get him to take a pay cut or renegotiate that number down. I mean, Crowder's best situation at this point is still probably to stay with the Jets, be in this offense, get a lot of receptions from Zach Wilson, and then he could maybe cash in again next offseason.
I think he's 27. He's going to be going age 28 season, but he's been productive his whole career. Every year, if you look at his Pro Football Reference page, it's pretty funny. Like, most guys kind of fluctuate, right? It's like you look at baseball guys that like hit their career averages match, like his 16-game projections, like 65 for 840 and 6 touchdowns, and like every year with the Jets and the Redskins, Washington football team, sorry, is literally 65 for 840 and 6 touchdowns, or like thereabouts. It's pretty wild. He is a master of consistency, but there's a lot to be said for that, honestly. And I think that was one of McCagnon's better signings, I have to be honest with you. Like, it was a 3-year deal that only 2 years worth of guaranteed money, and he's been good. Like, he's been one of their better 4 years. He's been one of their best players. Like, that's not saying much, but at least it wasn't Lev Bell.
Look, he's a productive player. And the Jets aren't in a position where they can poo-poo that. So if you can keep him and Elijah Moore, and you still have Denzel Mims and Corey Davis and Keelan Cole, I mean, all those names I just mentioned. I'm
laughing at your brother talking about Ryan Griffin, who needs to be sent to the gulag.
Ryan Griffin, man. I live in Houston and cover the Texans.
It's my least favorite Jet.
As part of my day job, and Ryan Griffin was on the team when I first got down here, and man, he's just blatantly just average. Like, it's just
didn't he get in trouble for like punching something in a bar? Or is that not a?
Yeah, he did in Nashville the week of the NFL draft when it was there in 2019. And needless to say, the Texans then cut him, and he found his way to Mike McCagnon and the Jets.
One stellar organization or the other.
Yeah, just tremendous. You want a live update here as I'm reading Connor Hughes' tweets about Jets OTAs. They ran a 7-on-7 red zone drill, ball around the 5-yard line. Zach Wilson got 5 reps, and he threw 5 touchdowns, baby. Let's overreact. Wilson
throwing keep track of his stats.
Oh, we're doing it. Vincent Smith caught one. Michael Carter caught one. Ty Johnson caught one. Braxton Berrios caught one. And finally, the 5th touchdown from Zach Wilson in 7-on-7 red zone drills, Elijah Moore. So Wilson's playing well. He's getting reps. And I think if you're a Jet fan, that's exactly what you want to hear.
But think about it. Even too, we watched the other day, I think he threw 3 touchdowns, and 2 of them, like 2 were dropped interceptions, or they were like, he made a couple mistakes, and then he comes back a day later or 2 days later, performs and gets better. That's the point of this stuff. Like, I don't know how people like familiar with like in college, like when you have spring ball, like it's all about getting young guys reps, implementing the system so that when you come into camp, they're ready to go. And Zach Wilson can go, I know 60% of this playbook already. I know nothing. And not having OTAs last year sucked. Like it hurt the Jets a lot. It hurt a lot of teams, but it hurts bad teams a lot, especially young teams. Right, you come in, like, yeah, everyone all talked about, there's no offseason for the Bucks. Brady came in, and the whole team was the same, minus Gronk and Brady. And Brady's a genius, so of course he picked it up. It's not going to hurt them as much as it's going to hurt a team where you need to implement the offense. You need to get familiar with the coaching staff, the day in and day out. Hey, I just threw the ball 85 times today in practice. I need to ice my arm. This isn't college. Like, I have to proactively get healthy, right? And so that's all that stuff is important. Becton's learning it. He's in year 2.
Yep.
I don't know. It's like it's big for these guys, but I'm glad to hear Wilson, ripped up the defense a little bit because it looked like the defense won the day a couple days ago.
Love to see it. All right, we've got about 29 minutes and change here. What I'd like to do is throw out, the opportunity for any Jet fan or any football fan that's watching this to write in a question or a comment about the Jets, and we'll answer some of the best ones here to wrap up the show. He's Will Parkinson. Will's podcast, Turn on the Jets. Get that wherever you listen to your podcast. If you're a Jet fan, you got to be following Will and listening to his podcast. And if you're new to my channel, Jet fans, please subscribe. That way, I could continue to create some Jets content in addition to doing a daily radio show nationally for Sports Map Radio. So some questions that those have about the Jets or anything related to the NFL, certainly feel free to write that in right now. I see D. Rivera goes, Jake, what's that jersey like? I'm not allowed to say it on YouTube because it is not technically legal, I don't believe. So I'm very careful on how I put that out there. So D. Rivera, find a way to contact me on Twitter, and I will let you know in the DMs how to get your Zach Wilson jersey for under $30. Oh, by the way, the jerseys that they have on there, they also have Elijah Moore. My buddy ordered a number 8 Elijah Moore jersey, which is going to look weird at first, but we have a significant player now wearing the number 8. So that's going to be pretty cool.
No, I mean, it's pretty cool. I've used the same site as well. I purchased a green, black, and white jersey when they first came out in 2019, and safe to say all 3 guys are no longer Jets. So I went Adams, Bell, Robbie. Horrible mistake.
Yeah, my most recent 3 Jet jersey purchases, I even tweeted this out after they traded Darnold. It was Sam, Le'Veon, Jamal Adams. So
dude, I have like 15 Sam jerseys. My closet is screwed. College, pro, it's bad.
I have nothing. Like, I legitimately have no active player on the team right now until my Wilson arrives. I'm probably going to get a Becton. I'll probably get maybe a Quinnen at some point, but I'm waiting for the number 2.
I was just trying to figure out if I don't even think I have any active jerseys either.
It's been tough the way the team's been kind of just broken down.
I've Leonard too. I thought I had maybe I have Mosley. He's the only one maybe, but other than that, I think everyone else is gone.
Who is more of a football guy, Joe Judge or Robert Saleh? They're both pretty football guys, man. I mean, like they both talk like football guys. They act like football guys. I think Saleh's more of a rah-rah guy than Joe Judge. Joe Judge is more from that, that Patriot, Belichick, and then that Alabama Saban mold. But I mean, depends what you're looking for in a football guy, because I think Joe Judge has football guy qualities just as Robert Saleh does as well.
I think they both resemble the organizations they're a part of and the way they're looked at in the city. I think the Jets are in a super emotional fan base, passionate, very diverse, honestly, and they've come from the Jets have been super proactive in diverse hires. By the way, not that we have to go down that whole route, but I've talked about it, and like they've had multiple black quarterbacks, multiracial coaches, front office people, whatever, but. No, I think Saleh represents the Jets fan base, this emotional, fired up guy who's this young, like kind of upstart team that's like hasn't really proven anything yet. And then you look at Joe Judge, and he comes from like the Giants are very buttoned up. There's not a lot of drama that comes out of there. It's like the old style of football, or the New York Football Giants, that whole thing. And like Judge represents that. And look, he's going to have to prove it in year 2 also. He gets a lot of props for last year, deservedly so in some senses, but that was the worst division I've ever seen, and they had every chance to win that division and couldn't do it. They start 1-9 or 1-8, and then they went on a run there. And my point is just like they both have a lot to prove, but they both are exciting. Again, they gotta the sandwich commercial was solid. Then you get Jared from Subway back.
Whoa. There's a family show there, Will.
No, I'm sorry about that. I forgot about
D. Rivera writes, I can't wait for the Subway sandwich commercial with Judge and Saleh. So
we'll get Strahan and like who else can we get on there? Bart Scott to kind of be like the buffers with the
will they get the New York quarterbacks in a commercial? Daniel Jones and Zach Wilson. Could they be doing
Daniel Jones speak? Do we know? Does he have a voice?
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Jones, almost like a mute. It feels like he's. I did see him at the Knicks game the other night with Zach Wilson there too. So you had both New York quarterbacks at the same New York sporting event at MSG the other night.
I kind of wish the quarterbacks and the coaches like picked teams that they were going to support, and then like they could get that fan base really fired up. Like I wish like Wilson's a Yankee guy and like Jones a Met guy, or like Wilson's the Islanders guy and Daniel Jones is the Rangers guy, and then they can kind of like continue to pit them against each other. One thing, this is a super random comment, but you might agree with me on this. Like, how the Eagles are obviously playing week 17 again. I mean, they're playing the Jets, I think, week 14, but that was like the 17th game was the NFC East, AFC East. Why is Jets Giants not just a yearly thing? Why is it not Rams Chargers every year? Why is it not like, or I don't know, I'm trying to think of another, Steelers Eagles every year? Like, it should be like that 17th game should be like rivalry weekend in college football.
I totally agree. And I've argued that before on the radio show that
I don't get it.
Like, you have a legitimate chance to do something with that 17th game.
That's
rather than
a
just
marketing dream.
Yeah, rather than just have like an AFC versus NFC, like a random like opponent that you match up every year. If you had the Jets and Giants play every year, it would really enhance that rivalry. Like, yeah, the Jets and Giants, you could say they have a rivalry because they play in the same stadium, they share the same city, but it's not truly a rivalry when you play only once every 4 years. So if you had every year, Jets, Giants, Steelers, Eagles, the LA teams playing, Texans playing,
Bucks, Cowboys, Texans. I mean, you're living in Houston. I would think that Texas would go, even as much as the Texans are bad now. 2 years ago, that thing would have been must-see TV.
Well, it's a huge rivalry here. People in Houston can't stand people from Dallas and vice versa. So, it's
Bucks, Dolphins. I can't. I mean, I know Florida. I mean, you want to get Florida people fired up. Bucks, Dolphins would go crazy. I would think.
Yeah.
And most of these states have either multiple teams or neighboring states that they don't like. And I don't know. That's my favorite part of the college football season is week 1 on Labor Day when it's 95 degrees out and the Saturdays. But then rivalry weekend, you get Army, Navy. I'm biased. UCLA, USC, you get Ohio State, Michigan, you get all these different games. It's Clemson, South Carolina. It's so exciting. And even if you don't really care about that game, you get into it because of the rivalry. And I think the NFL, they could position it either middle of the season or week, 13 or 14, right before divisional games to finish the season, of this big like matchup every year. You like look forward to like Jets Giants week 14 every single year. And it's like, even if they're bad, you get excited. And when they're good, you're like, this is awesome. Remember, I mean, that was a disaster for the Jets in 2011, I guess, right? That was the end of 2011, the Giants game, the Victor Cruz game. That game was awesome. Like, both teams were really good. Even 2015, they were really good. And it was like the city was buzzing all week. And then you get a great game, both games.
Well,
I think it needs to happen more.
The thing is, too, Will, like if you had that game every year, it would just enhance the rivalry so much. I mean, like there's no reason for them to not do it this year with it being the 20th anniversary of September 11th. That should have been week 1.
That should have been week 1 at home, Jets Giants. Literally this amazing, like, emotional Sunday night game. Like, people get choked up watching it. Like, that Cowboys game, Mike DeVito came on my podcast, said that game mattered more to him than the Steelers or the Colts AFC title games because he's from New York. So. But he's like, that was the coolest game I've ever played in, hands down. Like, the city has never been more alive. I was like, that's pretty insane. A guy that played multiple title games, grew up a Jets fan, and still thought September 11th meant more.
Yeah, it would have been great for the rivalry to do that. I mean, the Yankees and Mets are playing on the anniversary of September 11th this year, so baseball manipulated its schedule. There's no reason why the NFL adding a game.
We're not giving Rob Manfred any credit. Nope, we take it back what you just said. We're not giving Manfred a single answer. No, it's awesome, exciting. But I think they should be playing every year. I know I kind of went on a tangent there, but I think it's cool. No, Jones and the Tanser, again, the football guy, they're both football guys. I don't think there's one or the other is better at this moment. Judge just had one season. I'm excited to see Saleh. That fist pump he did at the Islanders game last night. I tweeted out last night. I hope that's that fist pump from Saleh after they get a 4th down stop up 7 against the Patriots to seal it. Stuff Cam Newton on a 4th and 3, and Mosley just beheads him. Be great.
Why are we waiting for the Patriots in week 2? Let's beat Sam Darnold and the Panthers.
No, I already penciled that in as a W.
You gotta love it. He's Will Parkinson. You can listen to his podcast, Turn on the Jets. Just listen to that wherever you get your podcast. Will's had a ton of huge guests on the show, and throughout the offseason and the training camp, we'll continue to do just that. If you're new to my YouTube page, final reminder here, please subscribe. We'll continue to post videos reacting to everything going on with the New York Jets throughout training camp into the season. Looking forward to that. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Jake Asman. Well, as always, ton of fun talking Jets with you. Thanks to the over 100 people watching this live right now. Anyone watching this on replay, salute to you. Go Jets, and I'm sure we'll talk soon. Well, thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and go Jets. Let's put up Mackay on ice, and let's get a couple Yankees W's over the Red Sox. Nice. Islanders victory over the Bruins. LeBron's out of the playoffs. We got Nets tomorrow. We're cooking, right? We're cooking, baby. Let's go.
With you on everything but the Nets, but that's
all right. That's fair. That's fair. I'm going to give you that one. So whatever, it's fine. But yeah, thanks for having me on, and I appreciate it, and I'm excited to come back on and during training camp.
Absolutely, guys. Everyone have a great weekend. So long. Thanks for watching. Will and I talk all things New York.